Now, like many of you, I tuned in to the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. The difference is, I pirated the fucking shit by watching it on a TikTok live. Because I didn't want to pay $15 so I couldn't get ads to watch a one-time boxing event, right? But I watched it live, and like I think everybody that has an IQ over 20, I was genuinely disappointed by the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson match. The female fight, the woman's fight before the main event was actually better. The co-main event was better than the main event itself. That is something that should never happen in a sporting event, especially a combat sports event that has been hyped up since like last year. I think it was supposed to, I think it started like the planning for it happened in late 2023, and now we're at almost the beginning of 2025 in a couple months. But like many people, I was thinking to myself, is this fight rigged? After I was done watching it. Now, I do genuinely think there is a high possibility that it was rigged against Mike Tyson, and I will list every single reason why I think that in this video right now. So let's get it all started. Now, to start off with why I think the fight was most likely rigged is the rule change that happened last minute. Now, the original rules, which were spoken on before July, because if you don't remember, the fight was supposed to happen July 20th, but the fight had to be rescheduled because Mike Tyson had a medical emergency, and it got rescheduled to November 15th. Now, here's the thing. Here are what the original rules were. 16-ounce gloves, usually 10 ounces. 2-minute rounds, usually 3 minutes. No official judges to score. No winner unless via knockout. Each fighter must pass an EEG and EKG test. Now, automatically, those rules are in favor of Mike Tyson for the most part, right? But if you didn't know, a lot of the rules were changed last minute. So to start off, the no winner unless via knockout, that was changed last minute. That was changed last minute. The no official judges to score, that was changed. And the 16-ounce gloves got changed to 14-ounce gloves. Now, it's not the gloves that bother me. It's the fact that the no winner unless via knockout rule was changed, and the no official judges to score was changed. Now, if you don't know, right, in the contract that Mike Tyson was given, and you can look this up too, this is public information, you just have to look for it. In the official paperwork contract for their fight, if Mike Tyson knocked out Jake Paul before the second round, he would have lost, I think it was like 80% of his money. He wouldn't have gotten paid hardly at all. He would have lost 80% of his money. And if he knocked out Jake Paul at all during the fight, he would have lost anywhere from 20 to 80% of his money. So because of the way that the contract was written, the only way he would have been able to get his full payment is if he went all 8 rounds with Jake. That is the only way he would have gotten paid. And all of the judges that were there for that fight were all hand-selected by Jake Paul. That's not how it's supposed to do. The boxing organization that is managing the event, there are some cats outside fighting. Hold on, I'll be right back. My apologies, everyone. But back to what I was saying. It should not be one of the fighters choosing the judges. If, let's say in the UFC, right? Let's say in the UFC, for example, Sean Strickland was going to fight Dricus du Plessis or some shit again, right? Let's say they have Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland 2, a rematch, right? What if Sean Strickland or Dricus du Plessis chose the judges? Well, everybody would be talking about that. Everybody would be like, oh, what the fuck? This shouldn't be allowed. This shouldn't be happening. But no, we're just not going to talk about the fact that Jake Paul chose the judges and most likely bribed them. And the whole thing in the fight in the original rules, it was Winner decided via knockout? Yeah, that just never happened. Nobody got knocked out. And on top of it, during that entire event, because I really looked into it, a lot of the points were not counted properly. In the match before Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, the points were not counted correctly. And in the other ones, the points were not counted correctly either. So it makes me think, like, okay, who are the judges? Right? Who are the judges, calling these points? You know what I mean? And then there's the whole thing of, like, how the fight itself turned out. And I'm going to get into that real quick. Mike Tyson was winning the first 2 rounds, okay? And in the third round, towards the end of the round, they were in the clinch. I think it was in the final 15, 30 seconds. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul were in the clinch. When they were in the clinch, you got a glimpse of Jake Paul, and Jake Paul he just looked so beaten and tired and exhausted already. And Mike looked fine. Mike Tyson looked completely fine for the most part. He was breathing a little heavy, but that was mostly it. And then towards the 4th round, we see Mike Tyson not throwing as many punches as he was before. He's letting himself get hit a lot more as well, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? I think the 3rd round maybe should have been a draw. Maybe. But I think it was still more in the favor of Mike Tyson than Jake Paul, just by how the 3rd round turned out. And then you have other variables to consider, right? Like, okay, I don't know if a lot of you guys caught this, but I did. After Jake would throw some punches or a combination or whatever, he would lower his hands to reset his guard and then put his hands back up. We all know that if you ever watched Mike Tyson's old fights, you never want to put your hands down against the guy. Because if you do, you're going to get hit with that right hook to the liver followed by that right uppercut to the chin. You're going to be cooked. If he's not going to hit you with that, he's going to hit you with the overhand right. Or left, my apologies. We all know this about Mike. Anybody who's actually watched his fights, we know this. So how come every time Jake Paul would lower his hands for like 2-3 seconds and then put them back up to reset his guard, why didn't Mike seize that opportunity? That doesn't make sense. We all know how Mike Tyson fights. He would have immediately ate up that opportunity. Well, it's because of the fact of the contract not allowing him to get a knockout. If he knocked Jake Paul out right then and there, he would have lost most of his money. Okay? And we have the fact, like, later in the fight, it looked like Mike Tyson wasn't even trying no more. And it wasn't like he was dead beat tired or whatever. Because a good way to tell if a fighter is getting tired is if they're maintaining their guard and if their footwork is the same as it was early on in the fight. And his guard was still good for the most part. And his footwork was almost the exact same as it was the first time. So it didn't even look like Mike was that tired. Like, don't get me wrong. In the 7th and 8th round, he looked tired. But not like tired to the point where it's like, oh, I can't stand no more. I just want to lay down and rest. It wasn't even like that tired. For a 58-year-old, his conditioning was great. But all of these variables, the contract, the rule changes last minute, and the judges being hand chosen by Jake Paul and not the boxing organization that is managing this event. Oh, it is real fishy. It is real. Something smells fishy here. Like, it's just so suspicious to me. As someone who has been in fights before, has done boxing and MMA training, and has watched so many different fighting events from various different fighting organizations, it's just suspicious as hell. And it all just seemed so heavily biased. So biased. And I'm not going to give Mike Tyson shit, because obviously, he needed the money, you know what I mean? And he wanted to get in the ring one last time and everything. But I'm just so... I was watching that event for like 3-4 hours. I was so pumped up to see their match, and I was like, are you shitting me? Who's calling me? My apologies, my mother called me. And as you know, if I get a call from my mom, I cannot ignore it. You know what I mean? If I see the call, I can't ignore it. That's my mom. I gotta answer the phone, But anyways, Yeah, the whole fight just seemed really like I was so let down by it because, as you know, I was not alive in the 1980s to watch Mike Tyson fight at his prime. Like firsthand. Obviously, I can get reruns of it and everything, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? To see Mike Tyson in action firsthand, whether it's on a TV live or at the actual event, or whatever. It's a massive, massive privilege, especially as someone who, is an actual fighter and has a love and passion for boxing and martial arts and everything else like me. It is a huge privilege to be able to witness that. And I just felt so let down by the fact of like, well, this sucked, everything that it had the perfect setup prior to the actual event, but the actual event itself was shit, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And I don't blame Mike Tyson for agreeing to the fight under that bullshit contract and the rule change and everything, because he needed the money. And admittedly, I understand why. I mean, he made $20 million from that event. So, it's like, if I was Mike Tyson, would I have done the same? Yeah, I would have. Oh God, voice crack. But yeah, I would have. I would have done the same thing. Do I think Mike Tyson threw the fight? No. It's just that the way that the fight itself was set up under the like last minute rule change and the way the contracts were written and the fact that the judges were hand selected by Jake Paul and everything else, I think it's just such a disgrace and a spit in the face to the boxing community and everything else. And I feel so just disgusted by Jake Paul the slime bag doing that shit to a legend in the boxing world. And then Jake Paul has the audacity to try and say after the fight, oh, I was really trying to avoid knocking Mike Tyson out. I really didn't want to hurt him that bad. Jake Paul, you couldn't fucking knock out a fucking 8-year-old at a fucking birthday party. You couldn't, let's be so real here. Jake Paul, getting hit by Jake Paul would be like getting hit by a 95-year-old woman with Parkinson's. He doesn't hit that hard. He doesn't. I hit harder than Jake Paul. And that's not even me trying to suck my own dick. God damn, where are these voice cracks coming from? Jesus. That's not even me trying to suck my own dick, though. I could hit harder than Jake Paul, significantly. And does Jake Paul deserve to be called a boxer? No, he does not. He simply put does not, because all he's had is gimmick fights. The only fight, because you gotta keep in mind, right? Jake Paul is fighting a bunch of out-of-shape, retired MMA fighters and boxers, okay? And he's had one fight against someone who was around his age, was in their prime, and is an actual boxer. And what happened to Jake Paul? He fucking lost. So that tells me that Jake Paul is not cut out for boxing. He just simply isn't. And the fact of the matter is, this whole boxing event was really a spit in the face to the world of boxing and the art of fighting. It really is a spit in the face to it. Not by Mike Tyson, but by Jake Paul and anybody who allowed this to happen. Excuse me. I really do wish that the fight was orchestrated very differently. I wish that we didn't see that happen. And even then, even though Mike Tyson lost by 4 points according to those dumbass judges, the way I looked at the fight, and I've rewatched it again recently, I think it should have been a draw. Despite the fact that the fight was set up in Jake Paul's favor, I still think it should have been considered a draw. I really do. In no world was that a win for anybody, in my view. In no world was that a win for anybody. I really do think it should have been a draw, despite the fact that the rules were set up in Jake Paul's favor last minute. It's just a real big spit in the face to everybody. And I feel bad for the people. They had VIP seats for that fight. I think the VIP seats were like $1 or $2 million. I feel bad for anybody, regardless of how rich you are, to waste your money on that. That is just awful. I feel so bad for the people who wasted their money on that VIP seating. because you were watching. There was two good fights out of, what was it, like a 5-fight event. But still, the entire thing was just fucked up. It was a giant, just, it was awful. I have much respect for Mike Tyson for agreeing to the fight despite the fact that the rules were against him, the contracts were against him, and everything else, and how much of a sneaky, conniving snake that Jake Paul is. I still have much respect for Mike Tyson as a fighter and everything. I do not have different views of him because of this. I just feel sorry for him because of the fact that he had to do this shit, and agree to basically losing. It's very unfortunate. But that's just how it goes, unfortunately. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this in the future, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys all later. Bye-bye.